We good? We're not good yet. We are good. We got thumbs up. Mm-hmm. Welcome to the Not So Tender podcast. We are on episode number 12. A nice firm dozen, as they say.
Dozen of doozies.
A dozen. We made a dozen. That's a lot of content.
That's true.
That's almost a full day. It's probably, after today, it'll be a full day of us yapping for 24 hours straight. I never shut the fuck up. I mean, I did. I listen better now.
That's true.
I've tried to get better. I've tried to get better.
There you go.
Hi, Kelly. How are you?
Wait.
Hard week or soft week? No.
Yeah, easy.
It's a week. You're on.
I am living my best life.
I don't know if I like this. I need you to get into a trauma center or something.
No.
Because this shit, it's going to get harder.
It will.
It's coming.
Yeah, right. I'm building my caseload.
It's coming.
It'll be there. It'll be there. Got a couple couples.
Yeah, that's a party. Couples are fun.
I love working with couples.
Well, it probably helps you too.
Yeah.
I'd imagine.
Yeah.
It makes you either less tolerant of your husband or more tolerant, I'd imagine.
True.
Right?
That's true. That's why I have a therapist. Every therapist has a therapist.
Yeah. I have this show. I'm probably going to go do we talked about on the last one. What? ED?
EMDR.
EMDR.
Mm-hmm. It's impressive. I'm not trained.
That wasn't easy. So I'm working through that shit.
Just to mention it.
It's a lot.
It is. Don't do EMDR until you're ready. Because it is.
I mean, sure.
It's like shrooms.
Sure.
You have to be You have to be in the right headspace.
Yeah, like shikakis, or are we talking portobellos?
Mm-hmm. Italian, obviously.
I'm learning after the last episode that there's some shit that I didn't realize was affecting me this hard. And also probably being on this, not probably, more than likely being on the spectrum. Added to a lot of other situations that I've been unfolding.
Raised your awareness.
This show's not just for you.
That's true.
It's also for us.
That's true.
So today, we're going to work on something that I think a lot of people should probably have dealt with.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Or currently dealing with.
Yeah.
So it's how to mend broken trust.
Mm-hmm. How to rebuild it.
How to rebuild it.
Where to start.
So broken trust could come in a lot of different fashions and different faces and things. Mm-hmm. Broken trust could be you not doing something that you were agreed to do. I won't say you were asked to do, because just because you were asked to do something doesn't necessarily mean you're going to do it, but you agreed to do.
Right. Or you volunteered to do.
Or you agreed to do it and you didn't do it very well, or you didn't do it at all.
Right. Or you didn't finish.
Yes.
Yeah. You talked about that before. Like
100%.
Finish the things that you say you're going to do.
Within reason. Or give a good explanation. I think people really appreciate an explanation of why before you're talked to about it.
Yes.
If I call you and say, hey, I'm running a little bit late, I'll be there in a minute, I really apologize. It hits different than I show up and act like nothing. Right. You haven't been waiting for me.
Or I call you and you apologize.
Totally different.
And say, oh, yeah, where you at?
But even that. But if you get ahead of the problem, the best leaders I know get ahead of problems.
Right.
And
they take accountability.
Yeah, and
admit their faults. Yeah.
Pretty simple.
Right. Woke up late, on my way.
Not super simple. But it can be if you get into a rhythm of that and try to do that, you'll be amazed at how much you avoid. I don't have that many people that mad at me very often because of that. It works out well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and there's two different things there. Like one is following through and the other one is taking accountability when you screw up. Both of those things can break trust.
Most people are nice when you do that. You're like, look, man, I know that I agreed to do that, but like I got in my head, or I got, you just got to explain a little bit.
Right. Took on too much. That's often my issue. Like there are times where I don't follow through and I feel really bad, but it's usually because I like overcommitted, right? That I said I was going to be here and then it starts to get, my timeline gets pushed back and it can be annoying, I'm sure.
Life happens.
Right, yeah.
Like I've noticed, because girls generally don't work on things, they're not building things, and they don't realize that one little snag will put 2 hours into a project. And like, why would that take so long? And I'm like, well, when I was taking this apart, that broke. Yeah. Or that wouldn't come off. So I had to get torches. And then I had to get, the pry bar the size of my car.
Yeah.
So.
Right. Yeah, no, I work on things too. Not mechanically, but painting something or fixing something or redoing furniture, like stuff like that.
But it don't take much.
No.
Or even just going to go get a bathing suit. Like if you had to go buy a bathing suit today, most men would think, well, you just go to one store and get it. That's not the case. You might have to go to 5 stores. I just went to go
buy bathing suits the other day before I went to Florida. It was like a 3-hour process.
And this is the season.
Yeah.
Imagine if it wasn't the season and you were going to do it in March because you're going out of country.
Right.
You're not fine. I mean, now with Amazon, it's a little easier, I'd imagine.
Not for women. You got to turn on.
No, but I'm saying, but you could buy 10 of them.
Yeah, no, you could.
Yeah. I'm saying back in the day, it probably would be a little more difficult.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So those are 2 things.
There's a list of some things that pretty much would tell you why some trust is being an issue. And when we talk about trust, I learned on this show from another therapist, we'll give her Mending, that she says infidelity isn't always cheating.
Yes.
It's a break of trust. So infidelity hits different when you say you've been, there's been an infidelity. It sounds, but I don't know if it has to be redefined, to be honest with you. It just...
No, yeah.
If it was a break of trust, you don't really have to call it an infidelity.
No,
infidelity that feels like it just gives a little extra.
Yeah.
I'm not letting you off the hook for this one.
Wait, it's like being offended versus being triggered. Like triggered is a stronger word.
Yeah.
So I feel like breaking trust and infidelity hits a little harder.
Me and Mike were talking about it earlier because he says, hey, what do you want to talk about today? And I said, this. And he goes, I think to regain trust would be reasonable unless there was like cheating, and that would be harder. And I said, I don't know why it would be harder. And he was like, well, I mean, it would be harder to get over. I said, but most people do it, and most people think about it. But yet when someone else does it to them, they're like, what the fuck? And it's the worst thing in the world. And I understand that, kind of. But I don't understand it when you've done it, and then you act like, how is this happening? What do you mean, how is it happening?
Sure. I think that, cheating, people get caught up on, one, because our society focuses so much on sex. I mean, just
as
off the top, right? But
I'm
2,
kidding.
it's
we wouldn't
more
make people. We wouldn't make babies.
Right.
We wouldn't stay warm. It's not that. I'm not saying be a fucking deviant, but...
Right. Or a caveman.
Girls
we're
like
not,
that shit.
We're not having sex because we live in a cave.
Girls want to be... It's so weird, man. You guys are so complex.
Well, but so sex, generally speaking, is an action, like just one thing or individual situations that happen.
Yeah.
Some of these other things that we're going to talk about are more passive and they're ongoing. And often, clinically, I find those things more difficult to rebuild.
Well, that's daily.
Yeah, because
usually your mate's not having sex with somebody else in front of you daily.
Not usually. But some of this, it talks about like lack of intimacy or lack of emotional availability.
Right.
Those are behavior patterns that evolve. And to try to get back to that is, in my opinion, in some ways way harder.
Well, let's say every day.
Yeah.
To keep your house clean every day is one thing. To clean it before people come over for Thanksgiving, kind of easy. You just go, I'm going to allot these 3 hours. I'm just going to get after it.
Right.
But to have a house that felt that clean every day, you have to be disciplined.
Yeah. It's
that is a discipline, and it's changing your behavior. But man, it feels so much better. So give us some of those.
So things that can cause trust issues are not following through with a promise, like we already talked about, not taking responsibility or accountability. The next 3 kind of go over withholding affection, withholding emotion, withholding physical interaction.
Like, I'm going to make you pay for you doing something.
Yep.
And that's weird.
Yeah.
That gets dangerous really quick.
Right. So weaponized intimacy is a huge issue. But the other one is
Explain that for people what that means, because I know what it means.
Sure. So for example, I have worked with couples where, let's say the wife typically is home at 6 p.m. and she messages her husband and said, I'm not going to be home till like 8 or 9. This blew up at work. Weaponized intimacy is she comes home at 9 o'clock and takes a shower, and her husband has intentionally put all the kids to bed, showered, and he's in bed with the lights off and sleeping. Like, you weren't here for it.
Or he could have just been tired.
Could have.
But if he doesn't roll over and go, hi, baby, everything good? Like, did you have a good night? Or because it's different. Because when people like...
if he's exhausted, but that's not weaponizing
unless he has
intimacy.
narcolepsy, I'm going to assume he would have heard her come
Stirred around something,
Yeah, if people are coming in your house and getting into your bed, normally you wake up.
You wake up, right. And it doesn't mean they have to have sex, but like you said, like just acknowledging her presence, putting your arm around, like whatever you would do typically, if you take that away.
And we've all done it.
That is weaponizing
We've
intimacy.
all done it.
Absolutely.
And it's garbage.
Absolutely.
I've definitely done it.
We're fighting, and there are people who obviously will say, like, I'm not having sex with you. Like, I'm mad at you.
Like off the bit.
Yeah.
Like she turns on the fucking light.
Where I'm watching TV. I'm reading my book. Even when we planned it, like sometimes that's like the intent, right? Like we're going to go out and we're going to come home, but now we've had a difficult conversation over dinner, off the table. And again, just to clarify, there is a difference between not being in the mood and having something happen versus weaponizing it because you want to intentionally withhold affection. Yeah. That is what we're talking about.
And usually a little physical contact make things go a little bit smoother.
Yeah.
It
absolutely.
would.
Right.
Not to be a jerk. If some girl was touching me while I was waiting in line in traffic, I'd probably enjoy it more.
Right. Well, I think I mentioned that the other day. That, like, listen, if you have a pattern where you guys are good for 5 days and then fight for 3 days, I often recommend, if you can have sex like day one. Yeah. I bet it will shorten your 3-day rebound.
I'd imagine.
Right. Don't do it if you're actually, not available. But if you can get there, it will. It helps a lot of people.
And that's my game too. I mean, I've been sitting outside of a restaurant that I was going to stop and get food, and I couldn't walk my ass in there because I did something about it. I was just like, I sat there for like 15 minutes. I was like, just go to Subway.
Yeah.
But then when I was driving to Subway, I was like, why couldn't I just do that? And I'm sure being intimate with somebody would be the same way. Mm-hmm. You don't know why. No. And normally we don't ask why. We're just still mad at them. Right.
Well, I have a lot of so I really enjoy clinically talking about sex with couples because it is such a big, like we've talked about, communication, finances, and sex.
Well, it's kind of the basis of a relationship, right? That's, I mean, literally, that's top.
Yeah.
Top 3.
Absolutely.
All day long.
So I've had conversations with couples where it's like, okay, so how willing or in the mood is appropriate? Because I've had wives that say, like, I do feel obligated to fill his needs, but am I? Kind of.
That's like, a hard one to answer.
I know.
How do you answer that? Like me as a tattoo artist, I'd be like, what the fuck do you mean?
Right.
Yes.
Right.
100%.
Right.
Dropping shit, sorry.
But some people have trauma or boundaries that make that difficult. And they're like, absolutely not. Am I under any obligation to give you part of me if I don't feel comfortable? So, but it's my job therapeutically to like uncover some of that, to say like, what about that makes you feel uncomfortable? Is there anything that he can do? Because he is your spouse.
But how did it change? Was it there before and now it's different?
Yeah.
I don't know a lot of people that married somebody they weren't having relationships
Sure.
with. So then it changes because of, I mean, things could happen.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, and often, to go back to our point, it's a breach of trust. You have done something or something has happened.
Then why be married?
Well,
like, how long could you not be intimate with somebody before you're like, look, unless you're older, or, like, I understand that. We know older couples that, I know older couples that are still getting after it, right?
Hard.
Right. And different people. But I'm just saying, like, it's a very delicate kind of thing to be intimate. And you need to work that out with yourself and then figure out why you're doing it. And maybe that would help explain to them why. And if you're not willing to be intimate with somebody, why would you be so upset if they're being intimate with someone else?
Well, I have asked couples flat out, and I do often, as an individual, so stress removed, like life removed, as an individual with hormones and desires, how often would you want to have sex? And it's hard to answer that question because they automatically go into their life and they're like, well, we have 5 kids and blah, blah. Like, no. Yeah. You as a human.
How often would you prefer to be touched?
Yeah. And then I ask their spouse, and almost never are those two things the exact same.
Even close?
It depends. But like most women, I ask and they're like, well, like once a month. And I'm like, no, are you saying that because of your life circumstances? Like, take your kids off the table, take your work off the table. You, without those outside stressors.
I'm going to assume most people aren't getting it on for longer than 20 minutes. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
And that's
the longer you've been together, and that's what some couples struggle with, is the longer you've been together, the more efficient you become.
You know what she likes and he likes.
Right. Like, it's not that they don't want to have sex with you. It's that, like, all of the extra stuff in the beginning was like figuring it out.
When I get a new guitar, it takes me a minute to go like, okay, this is this and this and this. But now I can be like change strings and just like, I know exactly what.
But some couples have an issue with just that. Well, we don't, we're not having sex every day. We're not having sex for 2 hours. That's fair.
Most people aren't having sex for 2 hours.
You can, but like, let's have a conversation about that.
No, most of it's foreplay, figuring each other out.
Yeah.
But again, you want it to always stay the same.
Right. They want it to be special.
Is that why people have, it's why they do everything. That's why they keep getting more kids.
It's not exciting anymore.
And more things.
That's often why they cheat. So a lack of physical intimacy definitely can breach trust. And
well, it invokes a lot of emotions on both sides.
It makes people uncomfortable and insecure.
Well, if somebody doesn't want to touch you, that's a hard... Like, even when somebody doesn't, like, I don't shake hands, I can respect it, but it just feels weird. It's like, okay, am I gross?
Right.
Like, what?
Just me.
But if that was my wife, now listen, if something happened and she went through some shit, like, dude, you got to give somebody some space.
Absolutely.
Like I always say, you can give them a year, but they got to start getting help in that year.
Right,
they got to start doing something. And after that, you're like, hey, something's got to give fairly.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, and I've touched on that in the past.
But not because he didn't take out the fucking trash. Not because he didn't finish the bathroom.
Well,
they can get in there and go, hey, I'll make you a deal. Let's get in there and work on that bathroom. Then we can take a shower together and we can make out a little bit. Is that cool? Tap you on the ass. You know what I mean? Like, be willing to put it in. But like, everybody, I know this. When I really want somebody to do something, I'm not opposed to helping them do it because I want it done. And if I want it done bad enough, I'm going to just do it. Yeah. Because it's important to me.
Yeah.
But other people will just walk over it and let it sit there and just get mad. And I'm like, why didn't you pick it up? It's not my shit. And then why are you worried about it?
Right.
Like, I have a hard time. Like, my brain, obviously, because I'm on the fucking spectrum, my brain doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to sit there and walk over it 100 times.
If it bothers you.
No, because not just that. Like, I can step back and go, it might not be that important to you, or you just don't see the importance in it. And I could tell you, people have told me the importance of things, and I'm just looking at them like this. Nothing.
Not my thing.
Nothing. Like, I don't care. I literally could give no fucks.
Right.
You know?
Right.
But when it's your mate, you try to go, okay, honey, but I'm learning that I have to communicate that. Like, I don't understand it. Like, not that I don't understand what you're saying, because I do.
Right.
But it doesn't hit me the same.
Yeah.
And how can we get to a point where I can be respectful? I can still feel like a human?
Yeah.
And you can be okay with that.
Right. Well, you're being considerate of each other. Right, yeah.
It's not always perfect.
Right. No.
All right, let's go through some more of this list.
So addictive behaviors, I don't struggle, but I see this a lot. So drugs, alcohol, pornography, gambling.
Guitars.
Guitars. Self-harm could go under this. Anything that is addictive.
Yeah.
There's sneaking behavior. And there's...
I'm sure they have some shame. I'm sure they have a lot. And that adds on to a lot of shit.
Yep. I've worked with a lot of couples who somebody has an addiction in the past or in the present. Pornography, we've talked about a lot on the show. Like, that comes up quite a bit.
Yeah.
Because it's an addiction and it has to do with physical intimacy. Like,
it's a coping skill.
It's a whole
lot of
thing.
Things, yeah.
Gambling comes up a lot in couples counseling because it links to finances.
Drinking.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know too many gamblers that don't drink.
That's true. Or smoke.
Yeah, all of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Chew something.
You got to keep it moving. A little bit of cocaine.
So addictive behaviors definitely can break trust.
Yeah,
infidelity, it says both sexual and non-sexual. So there are a lot of couples out there that are really struggling because one partner is saying, okay, but I didn't sleep with her or I didn't have sex with him. Right. But there's, you're giving yourself emotionally to somebody else.
That's a very broad...
Well, and everybody's boundary looks different.
I mean, that ideology of just the ideology of it. Like, when people say there's emotional cheating, I've heard it so many times.
There is.
And I've tried to get people to explain it. And they do a very selfish job of explaining it because, in my mind, it comes across a little self-serving for sure, like most things we do. But when I go, so how come that's the only area that your heart isn't allowed to be infinite? And they can never answer it. And I know it's a big question.
Yeah.
Because you have multiple children, you have multiple aunts, uncles, friends, and you're never like, nope, got to cut that valve off. I can't love them too much. I can't share anything with them. But when it comes to someone of the opposite sex or the same sex, if you're in a same sex relationship, but a person that you could possibly date, it hits so different. Right. And I've tried to get to the bottom of it because, I like to unravel things.
That's interesting, the way you just worded that. So what I have found is that it's usually not at the core of it, it is usually not about the relationship that they have with the other person. It's about the lack of relationship they have with their partner. So if you call Susie on your way home every single day.
Horrible name.
Well, sorry, Susie.
I'm joking.
If you call Susie on your way home every day and talk to her for 45 minutes and unpack your work, and then you come home and you don't share that with your wife, not the fact that you called Susie, but like your day.
Okay, but I'm going to say it very bluntly. Yeah. But if every time you do share something with your mate, it is weaponized to you, or you get asked 400 questions where like you're being interrogated, you'll talk to Susie.
Well, sure. Well, that's what I'm
Susie
saying.
doesn't judge you. Right. Susie's like, that shit's hilarious, blah, 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 blah. But if Susie was dating you, she'd be like, really?
Right.
That shit's not cool. Yeah. Or what the fuck?
Right.
So that's why it does hit different. That's why side pieces get along with each other better.
Yeah.
And then once you start dating after the side piece blows up and you have to actually start dating them, you fall apart.
Well, because there's expectations. But I guess that does go to my point that...
No, you treat a side piece like a friend. You treat your fucking wife or husband like a fucking, like, it's a totally different, I don't even know what you'd call it.
Well, in an unhealthy relationship.
Listen, even in the most healthy relationships I know, there are more boundaries on your wife or husband than there is on a side piece because the investment's not there. Well, the expectations are higher. And I'm curious when I ask these people why, I'm trying to unravel why. Because
why do you expect
why would
more
you want,
from your life partner?
My thing is this. Why would it fuck you up if your girlfriend said it, but your side piece didn't? If you know what I mean? If she said the same thing.
I need context. Give me an example.
Okay. So say if I had a side piece and I had a wife at home. I do not, by the way. And say I have a side piece.
Example.
And I was like, man, some girl came in the shop today, was crazy. And she's being super inappropriate. She's like, man, that's hilarious. Did you get her number? You'd be funny about it.
Right.
You wouldn't care.
Right.
You would talk about things and you wouldn't care. But if you went home and said that to your fucking wife, she'd be losing her shit because there's no investment. And I understand, I do get it, but like, where does that wire cross? I'm not saying that.
Sure.
I'm not condoning this either. I'm saying, what I'm saying is, man, it would be cool to show the same grace to your fucking person you share your finances with, your children with, your home with, and you're true motherfucker. And everybody's like, no, that's my... I'm like, no, it's not. You're lying. It's not your ride or die. It's your ride or die until they don't serve you anymore or something sticks in your fucking craw.
Right.
They're my everything. Are they?
Right.
Are they?
Yeah.
They're everything until it doesn't hit the way it's supposed to hit. And what I'm saying is with a side piece, you're honest with them because you're on the same, we've talked about this before, you're on the same level. If me and you both rob a bank, we ain't talking shit to each other because I'm like, you got something on me and I got something on you. But when you're not in that, you're trading the scepter.
Right.
You aren't sharing the scepter. In a side piece situation, in an affair, you're sharing the same scepter. We're holding it.
If the other person is also in a relationship.
Yeah. And even if not, no, it gets hairy. You know where I found where it gets hairy?
Those are not the same things.
I can tell you where it gets hairy is when the person oversells it. When the person goes, I fucking hate the person I'm with. I can't wait to get rid of it. Yeah. Listen, your side piece doesn't care about that. They've already accepted the fact that you have a relationship and they don't mind this agreement. It's when the person oversells it is where the resentment, because they're failing, because they're like, I'm getting out, and they don't. It goes back to that thing of trust. Right. You start losing that. You're not fulfilling what you said. I didn't even ask this of you, but you keep saying you're going to leave and you don't. And I see weakness in that. Right. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I would still argue. So
I'm sure their side pieces are better when both people are married. Right. Yeah.
If there's a marriage here and a marriage here, even if this person says they're leaving and this person says they're not, or they both do, like there's still, it's still even.
And I'm not saying that this shit's a good idea. I'm saying this. Yeah. I'm trying to find out why does that work so well in that situation, and you are completely raw with that person. I've talked to people about this.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, but my argument would be like, that's a percentage, right? Like, that's not a blanket.
No, but it's I mean, or you just keep it so cut and dry that it is what it is. I'm not saying, I'm just saying, why are you more honest? Like, if you're calling somebody on the way home, but you guys talked about with parents.
Sure.
My kid doesn't share anything with you. Well, how do you react when they do share things with you?
Sure.
Like, I know everyone wants to look at the problem, but they don't look at the symptoms to get them to the problem.
Right. Well, but I guess that goes back to the fact that there is an issue in your marriage. Like, that the issue is not with your friend. The issue is in your marriage.
Or
you
your
don't
own
feel comfortable.
Control of your own emotions or why you feel what you feel before you put it in your mate's shit.
Right.
You know, like, if it makes everything I bring to you, you get mad about, I'm going to stop talking to you.
Right. Well, they're breaking trust.
Right. But how do you, that's a whole nother fucking thing, I guess.
No, emotional affairs are real.
They are real.
Very real. I have multiple couples that I am going through this actively because they have let their guard down too much. They have given somebody else something of themselves that is supposed to be valuable and reserved for their mate.
Yeah. It's hard for me to wrap my
face twitched. You're like,
well, it's hard. No, what I'm saying is it's hard for me to understand that because I'm not into ownership. And that feels like ownership to me.
Yeah.
Listen, I would not prefer my wife to be intimate with someone else, but if she feels the need, because I trust her as a human, and I want her to fulfill her needs and wants in her life, that if you have a conversation, and I'm trying to understand this because she does not feel the same way.
Well, no.
So you know what I mean? So I'm trying to be
very... outlier there.
Well, I'm trying to understand it because I'm very free and open about stuff because I'm just like this. I don't feel so attacked. I'm like this. I know she's my wife. I know she loves me. I know that, like, when I'm with somebody, I don't doubt that they're my person.
Right.
I treat them like I would treat my friend. I treat them like I treat, and I know that's that line that gets.
I know. Well, so the problem is, to go back to our last episode, there has to be something special.
Oh yeah, we keep hearing that word.
Or that they're a priority, or that they're your person, and I think that just makes that feel like it's not. Yeah, if you are sharing something intimate with another person.
But what if it just happened in conversation? I've been sitting with Mike, and we, dude, I sat with a friend last night, dude, and I was literally almost in tears because it just hit me so fucking emotionally. And he's such a wonderful guy, and he just looked at me and he was like, "Buddy, if I can, tell me what I can do to help you." You know what I mean? But did that take away from anyone else? Obviously, because I'm fucked up, I look at things from way back. I don't look at things like this. How does this affect just me? I look at it like if my kid was going through this and felt like they needed to share something with somebody in that moment. It's like going outside and screaming, like, because you just need to get it out.
Yeah, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about you going to the same person over and over and not going to your spouse. That is an emotional affair. And
I understand that.
Yeah.
Now, if your mate is open and your mate actually will let you speak open-endedly, which we will talk about here in a minute, it would be a lot easier. So if someone is doing that, maybe you should talk to them and go, "Hey, am I hard to talk to? And if I am hard to talk to, how can we work on that to be less hard? Because I would prefer... I want to be part of this. Is what I can say about the person. She hates the fact that someone else would think that they have it in, that someone has the availability of me. They have access to me that they should not have. And I've been trying to understand that.
Icky.
But I've been trying to understand that. And she might not have eloquently put it to words, but it didn't come across super icky to me as much. It was like, they do not deserve access to you that I have. And that's the same.
That's kind of fair.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. No,
I might not have, I'm paraphrasing what she said.
Sure.
But to have access to me, and it kind of, when she said it that way, I was like, okay.
All right.
And see, but here's how I have to retrain my brain. What's not a big deal to me because I know how I feel about that person.
Right.
And I don't give, like, I'm not saying I don't give two fucks about what I'm saying, but I don't look at them in that way. You know what I mean? That's where it gets hairy. Like, How do you trust somebody in that?
I have had a conversation recently that kind of goes back to like the analogy or metaphor that like a chain is only as strong as its weakest link, right?
Ish. Gotcha.
Follow?
Yeah.
A relationship is as strong as the person with the strongest feelings. So if I view you as just a friend, but you are falling for me, that's where our relationship is.
Okay.
I
can see that. No, I can see.
Yeah.
No, look, I'm trying to understand this because, unfortunately, because of what I do and my personality, my entire life, people are weirdly drawn to me to share things, and they feel comfortable with me, and they feel like I'm a safe place.
Yep.
There has to be certain boundaries on this because it's making my mate feel uncomfortable.
Sure.
Okay.
Same. I'm a therapist.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
All right. But you have a...
Well, I have ethics and a board.
Yeah, I don't have any of that. Okay. And just you being a therapist, people already assume that.
Yes.
Not me.
That's true.
Okay.
You're available in a different way in their head.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I've tried to... Well, I haven't tried. I have. I've been successful in putting myself in the way I speak about things to not give anybody the wrong... that I'm being too open to... I'm available like that. And... I'm working on that because I don't want to make anyone else feel that way.
Right.
I don't currently know what's going on in my own relationship, but whether this figures itself out or I go, eventually somewhere else. I don't want to continue having this because it's been a reoccurring theme in my life.
Sure.
The only people that haven't really given me too much shit about that have been through some crazy traumatic shit. And they're just like, no, it's just people being fucking people. And if you haven't I love that this person hasn't been through a lot of shit because she hasn't had to feel horrible shit.
Right, yeah.
But people who haven't felt horrible shit thinks everything's horrible, and that's hard.
Well, but so emotional affairs are rooted in jealousy, which we've talked about. So insecurity, fear, anger, anxiety, and that I would say 100% of the time comes from a breach of trust.
Yeah.
More than likely in this relationship, but sometimes past relationships trickle in, right? So I had a conversation with my husband pretty early on that he had his phone and he set it face down.
Yeah.
It was early and I was like, hey, babe, that irks me. Yeah. And he was like, why? And I was like, it's a thing from my past that has nothing to do with you, but I feel the need to verbalize that.
Before I hate you.
Before I get in my own head, because when I say it doesn't have any power anymore.
Yeah.
And he was like, well,
you gave him context.
There are 5 children in our living room right now. I put it like that so that nothing hits the screen or falls over and cracks my screen.
So you try to find a medium for that.
Well, as soon as I said it, I didn't give a shit.
You're like, here's a screen protector.
Right. I didn't care. I didn't care anymore because I was like,
down.
hey, I need to see
Daddy's phone.
I just need you to know that irked me a little bit. And like I said, just saying that out loud took away the power. He didn't get on me. He didn't tell me that I was crazy. He just was like, I'm sorry. Like, this is why I do it. And I was like, oh, thank you.
Right.
But that's how jealousy comes. That's how.
Yeah. Even the way you position yourself sitting on your phone, somebody will take it as like you're trying to hide something. I'm like, I'm just weirdly sitting.
Right.
Like I might have just been uncomfortable in the chair.
Right.
I'll
just ask my husband. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
To be like, 9 times out of 10, it is that he is shopping for me because of something. Like he got, he just told me this morning that one of his coworkers told him about a new shoe that like Birkenstock came out with that's waterproof that I could take on my kayak. And,
so Birkenstock, if you want to sponsor us, she needs some new shoes.
Mm-hmm. Apparently they're like $30-something at
That's
Dick's.
pretty reasonable.
I know,
we might not need a sponsor for that.
Right.
I think I got
it. But if you want to, by all means,
we can make this happen.
Call this number, send us a text, we'll get there. But anyway, like the emotional affair is an infidelity, and it usually comes from an unhealthy relationship and then compounds it.
There's a lot of
when you
facets.
are already not healthy in your relationship, that's usually when these things start happening, and then they start happening, and then there's lying and sneaking, and we'll get through all of that. Hopefully this episode, maybe part 2.
Yeah, there might be a part 2 to this.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So let's because we could literally spend all day just on that.
Oh, there's one more. We'll say, okay, so directly criticizing or your partner speaking harshly about you behind your back.
Oof. Yeah, I don't do that. So don't fuck with
Lots of people do.
Really?
Lots. Are you kidding?
Is that victim shit?
I take pride in the fact that I will go out with the girls and everybody is just going ham. And I'm like, that guy's pretty fantastic.
Yeah,
like, he's not
my daughter
perfect,
my daughter, she's got guys, some girlfriends in her, and they're like, and she's like, nah, my dude's dope.
Right.
He's cool,
You're like, nah, he's pretty awesome. That's why I picked him.
And you almost feel bad.
I do, often. Sometimes you feel guilty and you like give a breadcrumb, a nugget of some sort.
I don't know
where
if
I'm
he
like,
flosses good enough.
Right. Well, he snores
once a year when he has a cold.
I don't know. His feet smell when he wears these one pair of socks. Like, I don't know. Like, but a lot of people do. And a lot of females, I would say, and males bond about that stuff.
Yeah.
Because my husband will come back from work and he'll be like, I am so glad that, like, not only do I love you, but I like you and I appreciate you and I respect you.
That's playing victim shit.
Well, and they're looking for people to co-sign their bullshit.
Yeah. Oh, you're too good to deal with that.
Yes,
no, you're not.
Right.
You're probably not. Just saying.
Probably. I
the good people I know.
You don't just, but like.
Maybe.
Sometimes.
You fucking might deserve it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah, right.
We deserve everything else we fucking do.
Take it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So whatever your fucking breach of trust is, here's some things that might help you fucking move through it, because it's really important. Because once you start employing these kind of things, you can literally apply it to your work, your family, your friends. It's not just with your mate. And that's what people think. If you applied the same things that make you successful at work to your home life, you'd be surprised of how amazing, and like you'd be so much more attentive, or at least be able to deal with it when it comes down the river. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like when it comes to you, you can actually deal with it because you have all this other stuff done and handled.
Sure.
If you have loose ends everywhere at work and at home and with your family, if you think a mate that you hold to the highest standard of any human in your life, and you treat the poorest, facts, good luck.
Right.
So, first one.
These are things that we go over in couples counseling, because step one, often I see couples come in for some sort of breach of trust.
Yeah, I'm going to assume they're couples counseling, not because of everything's going great.
No.
You can't agree on whether to use flour or corn tortillas for taco night.
I have a couple couples. Every once in a while I'll get like a premarital couple, right? That like just is doing some preventative stuff. But usually they come to me, like I've said in the past, where their car is broken down on the side of the highway. Every aspect of trust has been broken and they want to rebuild it.
Sweet.
So number one is making a commitment, which I think is so simple, but such an actual struggle in reality. Because when I see couples come to counseling, one made the appointment and the other one is here.
There. Yeah.
Is here. So it is saying in order to rebuild a relationship, actually, you have to both be committed to it. And I do that scale that I've talked about in the past. Like, so
what's
0 to 10, how committed are you? Because you're not a 10. And you're like...
You could be a 9.
You could be a 2. I have couples that are like, I'm at like a 3. I'm here to figure out
3.
If I want
5,
to do
man,
this.
That's I can't believe you even walk through that door.
They do.
But their scale might be different than mine. Their 3 might be a fucking 7 in my world.
There's guilt. There's fear. There's all sorts of things.
You gotta move. You gotta tell your families.
Yes. There's all types of stuff that can.
You gotta split up all your friends.
Right.
Yeah. Change your fucking Netflix passwords.
Well, yeah. Or you're gonna have a whole bunch of debt. They help you pay your bills.
All that.
You love your mother-in-law.
Well, that's really the only reasons why we even stay with people as long as we do, is because we don't want to fucking lose it.
It's more convenient.
It's buying a house versus renting a house.
Yeah.
Seriously, it's having a lease versus not having a lease.
Right. Yeah,
it's true.
Fair. So step one, most importantly, I would say, obviously, getting started is making sure that both parties are committed to rebuilding trust. If there is a party that doesn't feel like they did anything wrong, doesn't understand why they have to talk about it, has no intent. It happens, depending on what the breach of trust was. If
you're both going to Niagara Falls, you both got to agree on the trip. So look at it as a trip. But look at it as a trip. If you listen, then don't go.
Do you know how many people would go on that trip because they don't want to hear about it? And you know how often I see that in couples counseling of she won't get off my case because it's usually the woman, not to stereotype, but that comes to me, that comes to counseling. men will identify a problem, but their go-to, generally speaking, is not to go to counseling.
Yeah.
Women are like, I want a third person.
You know what they're doing. They just want you to validate what they're saying.
And then
they just want
to
somebody
me,
to gang up on them.
I do not co-sign bullshit.
No.
In fact, usually the person that comes is the person that
of course
regrets it sometimes.
Of course.
So step one, making a commitment, making sure both people are
Imagining how much better your trip would be to Niagara Falls if you both wanted to go.
Yeah.
Not the same 100% on both sides, but if you both reasonably want to fucking go.
Right.
So if you can't get to that point, just
don't go. Just
fist bump,
stop. Right.
Start dividing your shit nicely.
Right.
Okay, next.
Both parties take responsibility. Listen, this is a big deal.
Fuck.
Y'all, this is a big deal. Because if there has been a breach of trust...
I'm checking my watch. I'm like...
Right. What time is it? About 36 minutes in, Thomas. So I think this is obviously very difficult for people to do, specifically for infidelity, like physical cheating, emotionally cheating, because there's always the wrongdoer. You're the one that stepped out.
But you started this.
It's
like saying no matter what a girl does to a guy, he shouldn't hit her back. It's that kind of mentality.
We had that conversation.
You know what I mean? But it's that kind of mentality.
Yes, right. Never hit a woman. Never hit a woman.
No matter what she's doing.
Even when she steps to you like a man and decks you in the face, stabs you. You're like, no, wait. She stabs you. You're not allowed to push her.
All right. So both admitting fault. And I'm sure that is a motherfucking struggle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Both acknowledging that you did wrong.
Okay. Therapist.
Yeah.
What does fault? Like, people stand on this shit.
Yeah.
Like, it's your fault. I'm like, explain that. They can't. Most people can't explain words. They don't even know what the words they're saying, what the definitions are. And I think we should probably take some time. If you're saying a word, know what that word means. Mm-hmm. Look up the word relationship. Look it up. So all these things you add to the word relationship, if you look at the definition, it's very small. Just checking.
Sure.
There's a lot of definitions of words. And if you really want to know what a relationship is, look up codependent. And that's probably more closely what your relationship looks like than the actual definition of relationship.
I just had a session about codependency last night.
Yeah. It's a common. So,
I've read books and had to do work.
Yeah.
Like, our society is very focused on codependent and encouraging of codependency. Yeah.
Okay, so taking fault and both taking fault. So if somebody goes, well, he cheated on me, how is this my fault? Because they think if you take fault, it makes them feel like they're like, how could you explain that? So if you take fault, that okays it, like that. I think people don't understand. When you understand something, that doesn't mean you're condoning it.
No.
Understanding it is not condoning.
Well, and I think fault, I don't know the definition of fault, but when I hear it, kind of to go back to verbiage matters, fault, in my opinion, sounds very one-sided, versus accountability is taking responsibility for your part.
So accountability is probably a little bit better than fault, but fault's an easy word because people know.
It's the word that people use. Fault. It's his fault. He slept with her. He texted her. He didn't come home. He did Listen,
there's people who believe that there's nothing that I could have done that would justify him doing that.
That's fair. A lot of people believe that.
100%.
I don't care how bad. I could go 6 years without having sex with you, and if you have sex with somebody else,
you have betrayed me.
You have betrayed me forever.
How could you do this?
How could you do that?
I haven't fed you in 7 days. How could you go get a burger?
Yep.
Okay, so admitting both of you have some parts in it, and that can be a whole. And yours could be very small.
That could be session after session.
It isn't necessarily your fault. Your fault is you picked the wrong fucking guy. Mm-hmm. Look at it like that. The fault is you trusted somebody you didn't really fucking know.
Right.
You put a lot of faith and all your eggs in one fucking basket. That is your fault.
Yeah.
You picking that person is your fault.
Right.
So that could be your fault.
Sure.
Okay. It doesn't mean that doesn't condone their behavior.
No.
But it is your. I mean,
you're choosing to stay.
And you chose that person.
Yeah, you chose that person. You're choosing to.
You took a vow.
It's like, yes, right.
I heard that the other day. Somebody mentioned that shit.
Vows are big.
The guy's going through divorce, and somebody goes, "She took a vow," or "You took a vow," and he's like, "Yeah, she's like sleeping with her boss, bro."
Right.
That vow goes out. Fuck you.
We've gotten a lot of feedback about that, actually.
Oof.
Yeah, people get really worked up, and it goes back to, for whatever reason, Marriage, the fact that you signed a legal document and spoke words out loud,
listen, that legal
means that there
document
is some sort of...
That's a real thing. That's an actual measurable thing. That if you're sick, that person can make decisions for you.
Yes.
You have access to that person. That's what that legal document is. Yeah. It has nothing to do with who you're fucking. Hate to break that to you. No. When you go down and sign that thing, it has nothing to do with it. It's literally to give you rights, because if you don't sign that, that person does not have rights.
Right.
When people are like, this is just a piece of paper. I said, cool. When your boyfriend's having a fucking heart attack and you're not allowed in the fucking hospital because you're not their wife or husband,
right?
Good luck.
Yeah.
It's more than a piece of paper.
Right.
It has nothing to do with fucking people.
No, it doesn't.
Sorry. My mom says I cuss a lot on this show. You're right.
I know. I do too. I'm trying to be mindful, but it's not my strong suit.
You married a Vietnam vet and a fucking truck driver from East Cleveland. Good job.
I just have to, I don't know. I cope through cussing, caffeine, and...
Fuck it. Let's go. Get crazy.
All right. Refining your communication style.
Ooh.
If you're going to rebuild trust and focus on mending bridges, right? It says to intentionally ask open-ended questions to gain insight and understanding.
Listen.
Not closed-ended. Did you sleep with her? Yes or no? Did you text him, I love you?
I didn't.
Sure. But you know what I mean? Like, felt the need to turn the gender there a little. I think we're going ham on some girls. But
so open-ended. I thought we were going ham on guys, because it was always everything we had was a guy sleeping around a girl.
Oh, yeah.
So listen, open-ended questions.
Yeah. Help me understand.
Okay, that's a different vibe right there. Yeah. Because here's the thing. We went over this before. If you're asking somebody a question you already know the fucking answer to, you are not helping.
I hate that.
So you're not helping. So if you're just getting hip to this show, we've talked about this. It's rude. It's shitty. I just want to see if they lie. Well, then you're a shitty person. You're possibly more shitty than them. Sorry.
Well, what's the word? Like tricking them, or like...
Oh, you're setting them up for failure.
Yeah. Testing them.
It's gross.
Right. You're testing them.
No, it's just you're just having one more thing to be mad at them about.
Yeah.
Can't you just deal with what you want to be mad about?
Don't do that to your partner. Don't do that to your boss or your coworkers or whatever. I went through your phone. I saw these text messages. I want to understand more.
Yeah. Explain
that
to me.
Is an open-ended question. And then pause and wait. Take turns, which is also hard because emotions are high when trust has been broken.
Yeah. 100%.
They want to get their point across. This is how this made me feel. But this is how it made me feel is a lot different than this is what you did.
Without context.
I know.
Okay, that's an easy one. So open-ended questions, not yes or no, because you already know yes or no. Let's not. If you're already having this conversation, you already fucking know.
Yep.
Don't pretend like you don't fucking know.
It says,
you fucking know.
Learning how to self-soothe can allow both the speaker and the listener to withstand the tensions of the process.
Oof. That's not talked about enough.
It's a big deal.
Because
having a pause
once
plan.
It spikes,
nope.
It is hard to get that genie back in the bottle.
The fair fighting rules that we've talked about, whatever that was, like, it's going to be a difficult conversation, and we need to be mindful of that in order to have it be productive and have the goal be rebuilding trust. Yeah. That has to be in the forefront of your mind at all times. Like, you said something that was really upsetting to me now that I heard it out loud, and I need to take a minute.
Yeah, because if you start just reacting, you're an angry kid.
Yes.
You're just smashing stuff at the Lego store.
Because if we're talking about trust and we're talking about a lot of these things about addiction and infidelity and not following through on a promise and things like that, if you want your partner to be open and honest, they're going to say things that are going to hurt your feelings.
100%. But knowing how to, like, accept that,
it's where you're at. That's why we're having this conversation.
Well, if you're literally in the middle of discussing why there was a breach of trust, I'm sure that you're going to have some deep conversations. Mm-hmm. If you already pulled your motor out of your fucking car, there's some other things that are going to need attention as well. But knowing how to soothe yourself, that's a real thing.
Yes.
Because
having your own coping skills.
That's not easy.
And sometimes it's a trigger or an issue, because if we're having a conversation and I can feel myself getting upset, it's going to come out as anger, because I tend to I am an angry responder.
Some people talk very loud when they're just trying to get their point across.
I usually actually shut down first. I get kind of quiet.
It's like you're building up the pressure.
Yeah, I get quiet. I have levels. I get quiet. And then I try to assert myself, but I get quiet because I have to try to like process.
Well, you don't want to say something you don't mean.
Right. What I'm actually feeling and what it is about myself that is feeling this way. Then I try to communicate it. And once I try to communicate it and it's not going well, I usually get shaky.
Okay.
Like that's usually when I shake.
Yeah, pressure's building.
That is my sign that I need to step away. But if we're having a conversation and my coping skill is that I'm going to go walk around the block, that might take 20 minutes. That could come across very
disrespectful to the other person, too.
Well, and it might take a while for me to cool down.
Speaking of taking a while.
Yeah.
So you want this person that's supposed to be your forever person, and you talk about vows and, life or death and, or till death do you part and all that shit. But it's like you should just put ish on the end of all that shit. Like, you have to understand that this takes time to redo all the welds on this person. Mm-hmm. These are welded in this person. Yeah. These are not simple things like, oh, I thought I liked that. When you get something at a buffet, you're like, that looks good. And you're like, you take 2 bites and you're like, fuck that. These are things that they've been eating their whole life.
Yep.
They've been taught to eat their whole life. And to break those kind of things, you have to have some patience in the process. And if you don't, start dividing your shit, get in your Netflix, and move on.
Couples ask me that all the time. How long will this take?
Oh, my God.
It usually
I have somewhere to be.
No, but they want to know, like, are we talking 4 weeks? Are we talking 4 months? Are we talking 4 years? And I'm always very transparent that, like, I don't have a curriculum that I go through, and there's not a book that I'm going to send you that we're going to go through activities, and when we finish, I give you a certificate.
How fast can you get abs? If you're super disciplined and you're serious about it, you could get abs pretty quick. If you're barely doing it once a week, probably not going to get abs ever.
No. What I always tell them, my response all the time is it's my goal to have you fire me as soon as you can.
That's amazing.
Always. Yeah. Because there are so many people who need help, and I am only one person. So the quicker I can get you to up and running and healthy and that's my goal.
That's what you're doing. That's why you're there.
I don't want to keep you for 4 years and have you work like.
There are some therapists who definitely milk that shit.
It's not my treatment modality.
Okay.
I'm more solution focused. What do you want? What can I help you with? How can we get there? How much time do you have? How much energy do you have?
Evolving.
Yes. I have couples that are twice a week. I have couples that are once a week, once a month. Usually my goal is to try to taper off.
Yeah, once every other month, we'll touch base. Everybody's good. It gives you because it gives them a fair anything they need to get done, they can do it in the presence of you.
Yep. If something comes up, I keep a lot of people just on my caseload, kind of archived, but I keep them open.
That's good.
Because stuff comes up.
Well, it does. And they're not able to do it completely by themselves. And honestly, having that third person that you trust, that's hard for a lot of people.
It is.
Especially if you're always wrong.
Yeah. So, how much time do you got?
Yeah.
If it's supposed to be forever, feel like 4 years is probably not that big of a deal.
In the scheme of 40?
Right.
I mean, honestly, dude, when people are like, that took a long time, I'm like, in the scale of your life?
Yeah. You don't have time to mend... and I guess that would be my challenge. You don't have time to mend the relationship that's supposed to be one of the most important in your life?
I gave you everything. Okay, but not...
Are you committed? Back to number 1.
Yeah.
Is this where you're at or no?
And it's okay if you're not.
Listen, I've said it on the podcast before. It is not my job as the counselor, the therapist, to save your marriage.
No, it's not.
At all. I have couples that I have successfully helped them separate.
Yeah.
Because we have conversations. It's my job to help you guys find what works best for you.
Yeah.
With a third person. Sometimes that is separation or divorce. That's okay.
Yeah.
That's fine. I still work with a couple. We work on co-parenting. They're divorced. We just meet because co-parenting is hard.
It's
and they are trying to figure it out.
Than the regular relationship.
Right.
All right. Next.
Accept repair attempts. I would say these are all big ones. I need to quit saying this is a big one. They're all big ones.
This is another big one.
They're all heavy and important. That's literally why they're on the list.
It's like everybody in Destiny's Child. They're all important.
That's true. Rebuilding or accepting repair attempts. This comes up, I would say, most often when there is some resentment. And there is in every single...
I'm going to assume that if you're doing this, there's some resentment.
There is resentment. So if we talked about special dates, right?
Yeah.
You make a special date because you are committed to trying to... Right? No. But you're trying, and you know that it's important to you. So you give her hell. set up a special date and she's like, what's this for? Why now? And you're like, oh my God, just take it. Just accept.
Yeah, the why now is pretty deflating. That's the same thing as, oh, you decided to join us.
Right.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's the same fucking thing.
Don't punish things you want to see.
Why now?
Right.
So.
Yeah. And
why
it says
not now?
accepting a sincere apology.
If it's too late, then lose my number. Quit
Right.
calling me. Block
Yeah.
me.
Right.
Keep me blocked.
Right.
Is that fair?
That's fair.
All right, so even in it's not hitting as hard as like if your kid cleans up their room and you're like, yeah, but they didn't get the top dusting of the windows. Yeah, but they picked up all their toys and they kind of made their bed as good as they can. That made sense to them. That looks good, right?
Right.
Same kind of thing.
Yep.
Okay. Like if your kids make you some food and it's not really that good, but man, they made you some food.
I would say this is probably where I struggle more with my children accepting their apology, because sometimes I'm like, but you knew better. My 11, I'm going to share this. My 11 and 7-year-old played tic-tac-toe on my coffee table with a knife. 11 and 7, y'all. Carved in, tic-tac-toe is now carved into my coffee table. I came into the living room.
Is this Lord of the Flies? Like, what the fuck is going on there? This Peter Pan Island? What the fuck? They're just like, nah, man, we're going to fight some pirates later.
Yeah. So my husband, I like looked and he was like, look at this. And I was like, what the fuck? So I'm like pissed. And he's like, I already talked to them about it. They apologize. And I'm like, an apology is not enough. Like, they know better. But they did. And he said, he's like, no, my son was like tearful, understood that it was a mistake. And I'm like, and he's 11, he's almost 12.
Coffee table?
Coffee table.
Dude,
Promise, this is my life.
I could see picnic
My kids are feral
table-ish,
sometimes.
right? Picnic table-ish.
Right.
You know,
Coffee table.
You know what I'm saying? Picnic table-ish.
Yeah,
But I wouldn't even dare do that to my dad's picnic table. There's no fucking way. Look at my face. No, I wouldn't do that today.
Ass whooped.
Dude, I'd still get my ass whooped.
Yeah, we would still talk about it. So I do. I struggle with accepting apologies
what you should
from
do?
somebody who I think knows better. But
Listen,
that
if
goes
your
back
sons
to
get their nice house when they're adults and all that, and you're over for a function, I would fucking just literally, I'd be like, I wouldn't even say anything. I'd be like,
oh yeah,
I'll do it.
my kids are assholes.
I would
sometimes.
never
They're
mention it again.
fantastic, but
I would
right.
never. I would just be the best practical joke in the whole fucking world.
Those TikTok videos where they like come over and like throw the pillows on the floor and like dump the stuff everywhere.
Housewarming gift.
Yep.
New table, and just on the one corner have a fucking tic-tac-toe thing carved in it. That'd be a great gift.
That'd be good. That'd be good. So, all right. So set a time to talk about the betrayal.
Oof. You're like,
with a third party.
I mean,
That's down here on the list.
dude, boxing gloves or naked? Pick one. Pick one.
So
You should do it naked.
you should talk about the.
I always say you should always fight
talk
naked.
about. You can't talk about it in the bedroom either. Sacred place.
Yeah. Do you know what I always tell people?
Fight naked.
Yeah, just start taking your clothes off.
Fight naked.
You're either going to
Strip
get it
fighting.
on or...
Every time you break a fair fighting rule, you have to take off an article of clothing.
Motherfuckers be fucking up like crazy. You're a crazy bitch. You. Don't use I
It's a
statements
whole
at all.
new thing. Yep.
You're just naked.
Strip fair fighting.
They're always clothed up. They always... Come on.
Oh my god! I'm going to
Somebody's
recommend that to people from now on.
Fight naked,
Every time
though.
you break a rule, you got to take off a piece of clothing.
Dude, nobody wants to fight anybody naked. Well, some
Right.
people might.
Right, and then have sex because it'll make you rebound quicker.
With each other.
Well, you always say that.
Sorry, my daughter's driving and I'm just making sure she's getting safely. I wasn't trying to be rude.
So it says it's important to set a daily time, and it says 15 to 20 minutes.
That's about the max.
That's it. To talk
Set a
about the
timer.
betrayal, whatever it is. Otherwise, it will be a 24/7 discussion. And do you know how exhausting that is
Yes.
for the person who has made some sort of betrayal or made a mistake
Yes.
or committed some sort of infidelity?
I
You're like, yes,
weirdly
actually,
know
I
what this
You're
feels
very
like.
Familiar.
No, I do. And, on every end of it, man. Mm-hmm. But in the same breath, and sometimes you feel like, man, you just got to take your ass whooping. You got to take it. But there's a point where the ass whooping's got to fucking stop, man.
Yeah. You're beating a dead horse.
Oh.
And if you're so I do get on people from time to time clinically, because
I missed that one. I was taking a drink. I normally would have nailed that.
because if we are in couples counseling and we both are committed and we're both here, there is only so much to be said. if they have accepted they were wrong, like
what does it look like you to make this go away? What would make this for you to feel comfortable about it? If you can't know what that is, I had a situation with my biological dad that I was feeling some sort of way. Be like, well, call him. I go, I don't know what to say to him. So until I figured out what would make me feel better about the situation, I didn't move forward on any of it. You know what I mean? Because that made no sense to me. Why am I going to come to you with a problem? I don't even know what's going to make me feel better about it.
Yeah. Right.
So it's the same kind of thing, right?
Yes. Well, and I don't know, I think somewhere else on this, it talks about what questions are appropriate. The amount of information that somebody needs is a huge issue.
They want super detail.
They do. And there are things, if it is actually important to you to know the detail in this capacity, like this detail, not all the details, but this details, and you can justify it and say it matters because of, like, if it depends how committed you are, if it depends how hurt you are.
But that's going back to understanding
that's about you. Right.
Yeah.
It's not about the details that they did. It's about the details that you need to know.
Even if somebody fucks up, you can't just bark orders them. It's not going to end well. They'll probably cheat on you again. Not to be a dick, but you'll push them even further away. They're like, well, at least with that person, they weren't doing that to me. Well, they will eventually. But
when you look at like addiction, so you're drinking again. Do I need to know how often you're drinking, what you're drinking, where you were drinking? How often may be valid.
Yeah.
What?
Is this the thing again?
What does it matter?
Should I worry?
Yeah.
Tell me what's going on.
Yeah.
There's different ways you can ask anything that comes across like...
Right.
Like
I have questions. I say that all the time.
Yeah.
Somebody will tell me something regardless, and I'm like, I have questions. But I pause to try to figure out what it is that I need to know.
Skill.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. That's a you know, what does that look like to you? It's the same kind of thing.
Yes,
but it's true. That's useful. Right. You know, it's very useful. But you do have to understand. I know you want to put it all on them because they betrayed you or they let you down.
Well, and
but
sometimes
you have to understand why that even is a letdown to you. Is that fair? Because we're not just talking about infidelity.
Well, no.
We're talking about a lot of things.
Having somebody answer questions and take accountability is also weaponized. Making them say it out loud.
Yeah.
Do you need to know or you just want to make them say it?
Yeah.
That's shitty. That's trash.
Most people treat people, if somebody did that to their kid, they'd be really upset.
Right.
So just revert back to those kind of things.
Correct. Right.
You know?
So it's saying set a time to talk about it so that it doesn't become this.
Do you think doing that in person?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Unless if you are struggling with the fair fighting rules that much and you are so hurt that for whatever reason you cannot be the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
You're going to call names. You're going to cause more damage.
100%.
Sometimes I usually don't allow people to send texts. I don't suggest. It's usually like email in that case. Because you can write it and edit it and send it and they have text implies frequency, right? You know, like, and we're just ripping and ripping and ripping and going back and forth and back
Remember
and forth.
I said about having a notebook?
Yes.
Right, we have to physically write it.
Correct. So, same concept. Email. Yeah. You get to save it to your drafts for 2 days. You get to do whatever. Like,
I gotcha.
Don't have it if
but
you
most
can't
people wouldn't
handle
know that. I need to know now.
Right,
I need an answer now. And it's like, no, man, like...
Pause.
Yeah.
Pause. Sometimes I have told them you can't respond until the next day.
That's a good way to do it.
You send an email on Tuesday because you finally have felt what you felt and
at 10 a.m. yesterday.
Yeah.
Versus how I felt at 10 p.m.
Yeah. Very
I was
different.
not the same man at 10 a.m. as I was 10 p.m. yesterday.
Correct.
I guarantee it.
Right.
For a fact.
And people fight when it's not fair. If I'm at work and you are blowing up my phone
or trying to do anything,
knowing that I can't give you what you're trying to, but people will do that on purpose.
But that sets you up for failure too, because then you're already irritated. Yes. And then you're just lashing back because you're just like...
Because you're pressed for time, or you feel inconvenienced, or you feel like...
Yeah.
No, people don't do that. That's
gross.
It's not fair.
I hope you get
it's
bugs.
Not considered. Aw.
Fuck them. I don't care.
All right. Set a time for a non-negotiable weekly marriage meeting.
Do we need to have a non-negotiable marriage? Because that sounds horrible.
Marriage meeting.
Period.
So I'm going to read this one. It says, a weekly marriage meeting is a great ritual to strengthen a partnership. It is a dedicated time to be honest and communicate about the key issues in a relationship. Good topics to discuss include appreciation, things that did or did not go well over the course of a week, in a non-critical and non-defensive way.
So it sounds like dinner time.
Chores, finances, external commitments, date nights, etc.
But it's like family dinner. You just sit and talk about your day.
It's an intentional accountability, right? Like, we're going to focus. It's easy to get lost.
Priority.
It's easy.
Reasonable priority.
It is. This is what I see naturally with my job, right? Is like it's a set time and date and whatever. Like,
Works.
and so people show up.
It helps.
If you are not seeking therapy, this can be a super good tool to say every Sunday night.
But you have to apply all the other things in that, set time.
Don't sit down if you're not going to do anything.
Be like, oh, I got some shit for this bitch this week. What's up?
Right. No, I have actually given this as homework.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
You know, you guys meet with me on Tuesdays. I want you guys to sit down on Sunday night and talk for 15 minutes just about what's going well, what do we need? Because on Sunday night, then you have 2 days to bring it to me on Tuesday.
You got some time to think about it.
Yeah, do
it's
some
like
homework.
You don't just pick a color for your house.
No.
You walk around that house with different...
and you hold it.
Yes,
and you paint the swatches.
Again, apply what you are successful at.
Yeah.
If you just grab a pair of shoes because you think the color's okay and you didn't try them on and you don't think what you're applying that to, whether you're standing in them all day... Like, you have to apply what you're successful at to your personal life. I guarantee you will be so much more fulfilled.
Oh, yeah.
Next. I'm getting softer in my old age, you fuckers.
Redefining new marriage roles.
You mean, like you're not my wife anymore? I have someone taking over your role.
Let's go to the roar. Let's go to the script. Because I am curious. Having self-imposed roles can help the betrayed partner feel a sense of control while rebuilding the relationship, rebuilding the trust. Self-imposed rules are freeing since they are non-negotiable and developed together.
Much like having my daughter making a list, right?
I'm just picking it apart. Self-imposed and developing them together is a oxymoron. That's not okay.
Well, no, you could say, hey, I'm thinking, what if I try this? And you're like, that sounds okay. Could you throw this on there? Or could you, you're kind of both talking about it, right?
It says these can involve setting healthy relationship boundaries and daily check-ins or limiting them.
Yeah.
In order to prohibit escalation.
Yeah. That's important.
Yeah.
I feel like that's important.
Because once you breach trust, like, how many times are you going to ask me? I'm trying to go outside of just infidelity here, like cheating. But like, how many times are you going to ask me how much I drank or how many cigarettes I smoked
or how I'm going to handle something if this comes up? Like, why are you bothering me with that?
Next time I say I'm going to mow the grass, how many times are you going to say, are you still going to mow the grass? Are you still going to mow the grass?
That's bad. That's your parents teach you that stupid shit.
Right. Yes.
I'm bad at that sometimes.
That is all checking in because there was a breach of trust to say, like, I said I was going to.
Yeah.
I will.
Are you going to give the dog a bath?
Right. You said you were.
Yeah. I got to work on that.
Yeah.
I probably do that with my kids a little bit.
Same. Yeah. I think we all do.
Yeah. Like, do you think you're going to get out of that closet?
Right.
It's locked.
Yeah.
Right, Mike? So anyways, if you're locked in a closet, call 234-200-5949.
Yeah, redefining. I think so I have a lot of couples that end up going to logistical things, which I feel like is so gross, but I try very hard as a clinician and as a human to be empathetic because these aren't my roles.
Right.
But they usually go to things like read receipts on text messages, sharing your location.
Oof.
It makes me cringy. Not having a code on your phone anymore.
That freaks you out?
It sounds unhealthy.
Or not knowing the code is what you're saying.
Yeah, you need to know the code. I want to know his code.
You want to have access.
I want to have access. I want the code to his computer. I want the code to his phone. I want to be able to check his phone whenever, like...
How do you walk somebody through that?
Oh, I'm doing it right now.
I don't even know how to, like, combat that.
So I just had a couple the other day. And what I said, there is a world in which I have successfully helped couples get to a place where, for role playing, I can say I am feeling insecure or triggered by the fact that I called you and you didn't answer, but you called me 2 minutes later. What were you on the phone with somebody? Like, I was feeling triggered and insecure by that. I am feeling the need or desire to go through your phone and find out if, in fact, you were talking to somebody. And that's why you didn't answer. That's me. That's me using I statements to say, I am feeling this way. It was triggered by this, and this is what I feel like I want. Instead of handing over your phone and being pissed and bitter because, like, Jesus fucking Christ. Like,
I can honestly say I've experienced this.
I know.
You know what I mean?
But I have helped couples say, like, you shouldn't. I don't know that it is not healthy, in my clinical opinion, for you to engage in that and to give in consistently no matter what. I should not have that much control over you.
So explain to me this. We'll get on this. Certain people, when something is presented to them, it goes as a spider web effect and touches everything that it technically, you're not basing it on any fact. You can base it on that it could happen or it's happened in the past.
Hypothetical.
What I'm saying is,
triggers.
at what point does that become your mate's problem as much as it's your problem first, and you have to understand why you're doing that? But most people don't take the time to understand why they're doing it.
No.
So if I didn't answer my phone, and you're like, will you answer your phone any other time? I'm like, I was in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Well, how long does it take you to go to the bathroom? Well, then I talked to blah, 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 because they were walking through the shop, and then, and that don't freak me, because I've been trying to teach myself, because obviously, shit we've been working through with my own ass lately.
Yeah.
Why do I get so offended when someone questions me? Why do I become so
defensive? Are you defensive? Yep.
So, and I've been trying to do that, but then you lose part of yourself as well.
You do.
It's a delicate balance.
Right.
Of like, so in one hand, somebody will say, why don't we have relationships like we did back in the day with our grandparents and how they treat each other? Because that grandma would have never said, you didn't answer the phone and 2 minutes later you called me.
No, because she didn't even have a way to contact him until he came home.
Or it had to be serious.
She was just waiting.
Or it had to be very serious. Right. So that's what I'm saying. Do we have too much access to people?
Well, yes, I do. I absolutely. I would say that that's true.
Yeah.
But instead of, in this situation, you getting defensive and you telling me, like, you're nuts.
Yeah,
I was in the bathroom. Like, no. What ideally you would say is, I'm sorry that you're feeling that way.
Maybe I was in the bathroom.
No. Nope.
No?
You need to reflect and validate what I just said I was feeling. Because what I said is, I'm feeling insecure and vulnerable, and I'm feeling the need to look elsewhere for validation, and you need to pivot to you and say, I hear that you are saying this and this and this, and I'm sorry. What can I do to make you feel better?
This is such a mind game.
I know. Emotions are hard.
That's hard.
That is hard.
Because it's like, okay, so this made-up scenario that you made up in your head that means a lot to you, and I know it means a lot to you.
Right.
I'm not discrediting.
I just shared. I am in my own head.
You shared your own shit.
Yes.
And the other person has to know
if we're doing this,
know how to fucking paddle back.
If we're doing this, if we are refining our communication style and validating and trying to mend things, you showing me your phone out the gate is not mending trust.
No.
It's leaning in.
Because that's not real anyways. You can delete whatever the fuck you want to delete off your phone.
And you just giving me a reason doesn't help how I am feeling.
And if you don't trust somebody, you're going to find something in their phone that's irritating you anyways.
Yep.
Understandable. Okay, so just, I will say, dude, someone feeling heard changes their emotions very, very much. And then I had a situation where it was, she said she finally felt heard. And I said, you finally understand. I said, no, I've always understood. I just didn't have the right key to open that lock for you to feel that I understood. I don't really worry if somebody understands me. I don't. That's not for me to understand because I'm not in your head. You could tell me you understand me. Yeah. That's about as far as it goes.
You don't have any control over it anyway.
No, and if you fail me, I'm just going to do it myself anyways. Yeah, right. So that's how my brain works.
Yeah.
I'm going to assume most other people don't do that. So good luck, fuckers. No. All right, next.
Can we take a break?
Yeah. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. And we're back.
Great.
Sweet.
Moving
we got
on.
A couple more to go through, and then we'll be wrapping up today.
All right. So, number 8. Create a culture of appreciation.
Huge.
This is
huge.
Yeah. It's a big one.
And what's funny is the person that is always screaming about wanting to feel appreciated probably is really failing at making that other person feel appreciated, but the other person just doesn't mention it.
No, right.
Does that make sense?
That's fair.
You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people...
There's a reason that you picked them.
Yes.
Like, and sometimes we get so far away from that. And I have worked with couples because they waited so long to seek a third party.
Right.
They have so much built up resentment and bitterness and jealousy and betrayal, and they often don't like them anymore.
A lot of resentment.
A lot.
Yeah.
They love them for the role that they serve, or the things that they do, or the financial stability that they provide.
All that.
But their chances as a therapist and a clinician, I don't really believe that they're like 100% shitty people. Everybody has something.
No, I'm going to assume most people aren't in the counseling.
Right, yeah, right. So they have something that attracted you to them. They have something that you were willing to commit to.
Right.
And
marry, have children, multiple children with, buy a fucking house with.
Right. Dating.
Sign a lease together.
Right, yeah, there's something that you saw in them. And part of this commitment that I do focus on in relationships is like, what is it about that person that is still there? Because people change.
Something.
People change.
Of course.
Has to be something.
Yeah. To be in counseling.
Yeah. You might have to dig. Depending on where you are at individually and emotionally, you might have to really take a big step back.
You might have both stacked a lot of things on that attic door.
Right.
You know, or that basement door.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So even if you are not a good husband to me, you're a good dad to our kids. Or you're a good employee at work.
But even go further back. Mm-hmm. Like, think about the first 3 months you're with someone. Mm-hmm. What was it?
Right.
What was it?
He is funny.
It's funny. The funny goes a long way.
Funny does go a long way.
It does. Most girls, that's their top thing.
I feel like funny gets a lot more play than it should.
I know. Well, it does. And eventually, you know, I remember saying, like, you used to laugh at my jokes. She said, you used to be fucking funny.
Enough bitterness and you ain't funny anymore.
Right. It doesn't matter.
No.
Now it's just hurtful. You think you're so funny. Everything's a joke to you. I'm like, kind of. Everything is a joke to me because this shit, everything else is serious. I have to, that's my defense mechanism, is to play off that I'm like, it's funny.
Right.
But I'm not funny. I'm not. I'm very dry.
You're dry.
Very dry.
I think you are funny.
You know?
But because I appreciate your dry humor.
I had a drummer once, and I was sitting with him, and the singer was like, "Okay, you got a real dry sense of humor." He's like, "Nah, he just doesn't like you." I laughed so hard. It's kind of true.
Well, so there's a couple that kind of go together, and we're going to lump them a little.
Right.
So create a culture of appreciation, I feel like, goes super easily with do not gossip or trash talk about your partner.
And that goes with every human in your life, truthfully. That goes with every human in your life.
Yes.
It does. Because appreciation, if you have no appreciation for that person, get them out of your life. Mm-hmm. Don't rely on them. Don't rely on them.
Yeah.
Don't play games with them. Don't just try to make your life where, you know, put a year plan that you can get away from that person. Because it's not overnight. Not everybody can just dip. They don't have the financial means to quit a job or move out or do whatever. You know, I mean, there's a lot of things. Right. But I'm saying, but if you have no appreciation for that person,
and you're just going to run your mouth and be nasty,
you're probably a part of the problem.
Oh, you are.
Yeah.
What was that, number 2?
Yeah.
Taking accountability. And these next couple kind of just go back to re-injuring the wound that we're trying to manage in the first place.
Picking that scab.
Yes. Their betrayal can just look like this.
Yeah.
I went through your phone and saw that you were talking shit. Or to
your best friend.
Or my sister came back and said that you called her the other day, and that is breaching trust. And if you continue to do so, that's obviously extremely counterproductive.
That's a big hole you're digging.
Yeah.
I mean, you're actually, and not just that, you're making that person you're talking to hate your mate.
Well, oh yeah, I have that conversation often. Stop telling your mom about your husband.
And then wondering why he doesn't want to go over there for Thanksgiving.
Right. Or wondering why she's in your ear all the time, that like, why are you doing this? You're putting in too much effort. You deserve better. Like,
You just
be mindful. Be mindful of what is coming out of your mouth, because they can't unhear that.
And it's not somebody else. So listen, if you want to vent to your best friend,
sure. But
if you're calling that person horrible names, get the fuck out of the situation. Because that's one thing I'm not doing. You know,
not to their face or behind their back.
No, because I don't want my best friends, because they're not going nowhere. Those boys have been in my life my whole entire adult life.
Right. So if you went to them every single day and talked so much trash about your partner with real things, right, and just involved them in every infidelity, every promise.
Hey, do you want to go to dinner with me and my girl? No.
Why are you with her?
Right.
Is what they're going to say.
Because they're going to defend you.
Yeah, because they love you unconditionally.
They sure do.
They want what's best for you.
He's never thrown me in a closet.
So these next two, I'm just going to read them together. It says, stop all contact with the affair partner and share any necessary or unplanned encounters with the partner. So this is talking specifically about like an infidelity in the capacity of a relationship, an inappropriate relationship. If it is with your baby daddy,
it's hard to do.
We're going to have to talk about that. If it's with your coworker, we're going to have to talk about that.
Definitely some parameters.
Right. If it's your softball buddy or your bowling league partner, or like.
But if it's a girl in Tulsa on Instagram, not so much.
Not so much. Unless she hits you up on Pinterest.
On TikTok.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to.
The one guest was talking about. Yeah.
You have to come forward with that and say, hey, just so you know, I didn't think about this. I didn't block them on this, or they reached out and I didn't respond. Right. But you have to have full transparency with that.
And it's hard for some people to be mean to another person when they don't have an issue with them, but your mate does.
I have this conversation personally and professionally. Yeah. Some people have a very hard time closing doors.
Yeah.
Closing them.
Because somebody's closed them on them before. And that made them feel a certain way.
So they don't feel comfortable closing the door.
That was a real life realization just now. Okay.
Give you a minute.
I'm going to take a moment. Okay, I'm good.
But if your partner needs you to close a door, we have to have a conversation about that.
Right.
That doesn't mean you have to cuss them out and block them on everything, but does that mean you have a conversation about the situation and boundaries, and I can't be this for you and you can't be this for me?
Yeah.
If you guys are both on the same page, that could work.
That hits different when it's not just like, no. You need to block them, and you need to blah, 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 blah. That nobody, but again, that goes down to being told what to do.
Nobody likes to be told what to do.
Even when it's the right thing.
Right. Well, and this goes, so back to your relationship is as strong as the strongest feelings. If you can crack the door and feel like, no, I can just do this, you have to be mindful, and it's not you're not reading their mind, but like, can they?
Sometimes.
Some
days they might. Right. Some days they can't. That's what people are like, you said. I'm like, yeah, that day they felt that way. But the next week they couldn't muster that up.
Right. Or 6 months later,
yeah,
she had a hiccup or I had a hiccup or like whatever it is.
Right.
But then you have to be open and honest about that.
Well, just like when you're in AA, if you fuck up one time, you're not welcome back. That's a joke.
Right. That's not a thing.
Right.
You just come back the next day and say, I'm 7 hours sober.
Yeah.
I had 7 years. And
I'm not saying just accept people's bad behavior over and over. That's not what I'm saying. But like, it's a process, man.
Right. It is a process.
Fucking process.
If you run into him at Giant Eagle,
right,
and he walks up to you and says hi, what are you supposed to do?
Eat cucumbers.
Well, but like, this is just saying, like, if that happened, it is best practice to say, hey, I ran into John at the grocery store. We just said, hey.
Okay. That sounds nice. That sounds fucking sweet, right?
We're committed.
No. It's not just committed, but that sounds sweet. But if you started berating your mate, like, well, what else happened? And it's like that comes across
you and you guys
shitty.
Plan to go to Giant
Eagle? That comes
Eagle?
shitty. Okay,
that's shit.
And that's what people don't understand.
That's
like,
trash.
Then I won't want to share it with you.
Well, yeah. That's true.
Because if I share to you...
If they're going to tell you all of these necessary and unplanned encounters...
You're asking me to share this with you, and then you're going to double down?
Right. Well, and so here's... The reason behind this, I feel like, is if I ran into John at Giant Eagle and didn't tell you, and heaven forbid your cousin was at Giant Eagle...
You're fucked.
Now, that's a problem.
Right.
So it's better to just be open and honest... take the berating about being honest versus about lying.
Yeah, that can only go so long. After like the third time, I'd be like, listen.
That's fair. You told me.
Yeah.
But like that goes back to accountability. Yeah. I'm taking accountability.
And open-ended questions. Yeah. Open-ended questions. Not yes or no's. Open-ended questions.
Yep. Tell the true story about the betrayal.
That's real. That's some heavy shit.
Well, this goes back to sharing details and what is necessary and what is not. My husband, for example, is somebody who overshares. He's in recovery. He doesn't lie. It's one of the attributes I love most about him. But sometimes I'm like, I don't need to. Don't tell me everything. Yeah. But people, it's uncomfortable to admit how you are wrong.
They also do that because they want that in return.
Uh-huh.
And you can't make somebody do that.
No.
I don't talk about things because it does not concern me.
Right.
Even if it's about me, it still doesn't concern me. And people struggle with being around me because like, you didn't mention anything about that. I'm like, why would I? And they just look at me. I'm like, why would I mention that? That has no context to what we're doing right now.
Mm-hmm. Unrelated. So it says, I'm going to read this one because I just kind of skimmed it and I like what it says. It says, telling the story of the affair isn't easy for either partner. We already talked about that. It's hurtful on both ends.
Well, yeah.
But it will give you and your partner the opportunity to understand what happened and why. It's important that the injured partner doesn't engage in a destructive process of interrogation, or defensiveness.
Yeah.
Which never promotes healing, even if the answers are truthful.
Or good communication. Because again, if you are trying to explain yourself, how you're feeling, how you felt, and someone is saying you're wrong and that's bullshit, you shut down.
Yeah.
Stop doing that to people.
Yeah. I've had this come up quite a bit.
Yeah.
You know, they were talking to this girl over and over and over, and the question that always comes out, have you ever slept with her?
Yeah.
Like, that matters.
Yeah, there was no sleeping.
Right.
Wink, wink.
Right. If you say yes, and the answer is yes, that shifts
they go into a
for whatever
file.
reason. Yeah, that shifts the context of the text that you just read.
I'd be like, no, I only slept with her. I've never actually spoke to her.
But you see what I've said? Like, these two things are not combined. So if you're reading text messages that make you feel icky and you find out that 8 years ago you guys hooked up at the bar, what does that have to do with this infidelity? He did not cheat on you 8 years ago.
No. I love how people always think that you can only fuck people you used to fuck.
What do you mean?
There we go. You used to have you had a thing with her. And I'm like, you think I can't fuck someone new?
That's fair.
Like,
yeah.
Like, I don't want to be that brutal, but I'm just saying, like, yeah, and it didn't work out, and I'm not with her.
Fucking her.
Right.
That should be more reassuring.
But my brain works, more like Sheldon than,
Well, and so it is extremely damaging. I've had this come up a lot, where people tell partial truths.
As you would. If you're afraid of getting your ass whooped, you're not going to let there and just, very few people, because listen, all right, I should try to social experiment. I'm going to be like fucking 100%
brutal.
You've seen me be brutal.
I know.
No one likes that.
I know. No. Do you know what my husband says?
No.
He will say that I am uncomfortable answering that question.
Sir, I feel like no answer is correct, sir.
He was talking to the HR woman the other day about a coworker, and she kept asking questions, and he got uncomfortable, and he was like, I don't lie. I want you to quit asking me questions. I don't feel comfortable answering these questions. And she kind of laughed, and he was like, I'm being serious because I'm going to tell you the truth, and I don't want to.
No.
And she said, okay.
Reasonable boundaries.
Yeah, right.
All right. Gross.
Gross. Well, and people like to
I know.
minimize. Minimizing is never helpful because then more truth comes out later. And if you don't feel like you're getting the right truth, then they dig.
I'm just going to say it as bluntly as I can say it. Even if you know the fucking truth, what changes? Shut the fuck up. You're making up shit to just be mad and hold that scepter over somebody's fucking head. You're either going to accept it or you're not going to accept it. There's very few things that are going to make somebody truly understand something and be okay with it. Right. Even no matter what kind of degree of broken trust you fucking have. Right. Let's just be honest. Right. You want to be on the upper hand of fucking having control over someone because they fucked up. And it's gross. And if you truly understood each other, you wouldn't even have to have a heavy conversation about it. It would be pretty fucking minimal because you'd be like, you know what? You're a human and you fuck up.
Right.
And I love
said
you.
It before. Is this it or is this an issue?
Right. And most people, they just want to play this fucking game so they're right. This magical trophy again, fucking magical trophy. Yeah. And it sucks because then the other person's stuck with it. And the other person, well, you shouldn't have fucked up. Even when you don't fuck up, you find a reason why they fucked up. They didn't do something right that you need to fucking correct them. You constantly need to fucking correct someone. Yeah. That's fun. Everybody loves that shit. I love that shit. It's my favorite thing ever. Like when somebody just reaches over and grabs my wheel in my car while I'm driving because they think I'm not in the right part of the lane. That's super comfortable, right?
No.
But that's what you want to do to somebody's emotions.
It is not always that malicious.
No, but it's rooted. A lot of it is rooted in that. I would agree that it is rooted in insecurity. And therefore, like, power is a strong word. Dude. Control. Okay, that's what I mean. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's like a thing of like, I'm right, you're wrong, and now I got my thumb on your head, and then when I fuck up, your thumb gets on my head.
That's a whole different session.
Fuck
a whole
yes,
different episode. We're talking about men or women who think that they need as much information as they can so that they can make an educated decision. That is what I see most often.
Fair.
Is
that's
I have
a conversation
questions.
or two. That is not constant. But after that's already been disclosed and I gave you all the information, it's still not enough? You still are going to...
That's what these rules are about.
That's what I'm saying.
15 to 20 minutes about factual information.
But how long can you still hold on to that? You deal with this.
Yeah. Well, there's a radical acceptance that comes to it. Yes. Radical forgiveness.
Try radical acceptance. 1995, no CODs.
Right. You can't undo it. Mm-mm. So we are either engaging in trying to mend this broken bridge, or you have to say that the bridge is too broken. Yeah. You have to scrap the car.
Fix it or kill it.
And say, you know what? It's too much for me. I'm too damaged. The car is too damaged. I want to scrap it. Yeah. Sometimes it sucks because you both go into therapy with the intention of fixing the car.
Yeah, and then you write your obituary together.
Well, and then
seriously.
Yeah, well, but sometimes you get in and you're like, holy shit, I didn't realize that the transmission was shit.
It was this bad.
And the motor was bad. And all 4 tires need replaced and the airbags deployed. Like, sometimes you don't know. Yeah. Until you're all the way in it. Because usually when couples come to counseling...
That sounds more like a sad thing. That sounds more like an acceptance of, like, that's two people that really love each other, but are like, man, this is fucked.
Yes. I help, like I said, I have helped people through that. Yeah. To realize there's a lot of damage here, and it is very sad. Yeah.
I've been there. Right. That's fucking
But usually
brutal.
they come to session or come to counseling for this issue that just came up, and we walk around picking up rocks. Yeah. And there's spicy ones, and there's hurtful ones that are attached to trauma or former relationships and like their core belief system. Like that is the work that I really enjoy doing. Yeah. But there is growth and healing in that.
But that's going to make them a better person for the future, for themselves. Yeah, I'm saying for themselves.
Stay together, leave. That's my job.
I got you.
That's how I view it anyway.
Next,
understanding the power of vulnerability.
Oh, huge. I share that with men a lot. Ugh. I say being a vulnerable man will give you more peace and more love, and you'll be more open. And not just that, no one has the power to take anything away from you. Right. Vulnerability means someone can't steal it. Nope. You're always worried about somebody stealing something. You're going to be on high alert constantly. So vulnerability is a huge thing, and I would definitely look into that, even if you're not in a horrible relationship or you don't have these things going on. I would definitely look up vulnerability. I would read some things about it, and I would understand what it truly means to be vulnerable. Because vulnerable is looked at as a negative thing, and it is not. Vulnerability is acceptance, and it's also
so powerful.
It is, because you realize that you're a grain of sand in a beach, and not the whole world rests on your shoulders. Yeah. You're not a keystone You know what I mean? You're literally a grain of sand, and that there's so much peace in that.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And a grain of sand can only tend what it can reach.
Right.
That is it. And it's beautiful. And dude, that doesn't make you weak.
No.
You know,
it takes the power away. But I have a lot of conversations. I just sent you a TikTok, I think this morning, about when you build trust with that person and you break down their walls, or they let their walls fall. You said it. When
they stop crying for you, you're done.
You better be ready for it. Like, when I am not a crier.
That hit me kind of hard today.
Yeah, when I am that vulnerable and you're like,
yeah,
that was a lot.
Yeah.
So be ready for it. If you're growing, and it's okay to have it be a lot.
Oh, we've all grabbed something and didn't realize how heavy it was.
It's hot. It's hot.
Or it's cold.
That's right. That stone is spicy. I didn't know. Like,
but here it is, my stone. Yeah.
Picked up a spicy rock.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's empowering for yourself to be vulnerable and realize that it is not that scary, and that it is not something that somebody can steal anymore.
It's huge.
But when somebody gives it to you, there is a sense of responsibility also.
Within reason.
Yes.
Yeah, within reason.
Right. Ooh, evaluate your questions. We've kind of talked about that already.
Yeah.
Create an environment of proactive transparency.
Oof, that should work everywhere. That works everywhere. That works in jobs. That works in your family. That works everywhere.
Yeah, this makes me a little icky now that I read it. Transparency keeps everything out in the open to facilitate trust and stop overthinking in the relationship. That, I think, is where I struggle. And again, maybe it's a personality thing. Maybe it's just my view on what healthy is.
If you're a person that attaches everything negative to anything that goes on around you, that is opening up a can of fucking worms all day, every day.
If you want full transparency, I guess that's kind of going back to like, I want read receipts. I want your location. I want like... That's full transparency. That's where you just want to go like society.
This. I'm just going to give you my phone. I don't need a phone.
I don't want one. I don't want one.
Right?
Never mind.
Yeah, I'm out.
I'll just get a house phone. You can get me when I get home. Leave me a Post-it.
I'm going to work.
I'll put a board.
Home.
I'll just put a board on the wall.
I'm doing walk-ins only.
Yeah.
Show up at noon and you'll get tattooed.
Gross. Evaluate your questions. Evaluate your answers. We touched on that.
Yeah.
100% truth is a scary place to be.
Nobody's used to doing that.
Nobody is used to that. And a lot of people aren't ready for it. I can't tell you how many questions we ask that we don't want the answers to. Or answers that we give that might have not even been 100% correct, so much as an impulsive response that like
you're demanding an answer right now, and I'm not giving time to even think about how to answer it.
I've been guilty of that in the past. Yeah. That's where therapy has helped me.
Sometimes I'll answer just to shut you the fuck up and get you away from me. I've worked on that. I haven't done that in a long time.
But I have a history of being shitty. If you ask me the same question 3 times, I will give you the truth, but I will say it to it will come out like a dagger. And it's true.
Yeah.
I could have worded it better, though. I used to be like that.
I worked on that.
Same. I almost never answer a question. I usually sit, and my husband has to say, thoughts? And I go, he does. It's like our tagline, thoughts? And I'll go, I have many. And I'll like, wait a second. And he's like, sorting them? I'm like, Because I want to.
No, dude, you're trying to be.
Take a minute. I don't want to hurt his feelings. And I don't want mine to be hurt either. All right. Last 2, just say seek professional help and plan. Come to me if this is hard for you.
No shit, man. Go get a tattoo.
I am.
You know?
Yeah.
It's important, man. I know the things I've taken most out of this is remember why you started seeing the person you saw. Take away all that rubbish. Take away all that shit you built. Take away all that shit and think about the first 2 months you spent with them.
Yeah.
And what was special about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying recreate it because we're always trying to recreate that magic, but just know, like,
refocus.
Like, for me personally, the best relationships I've had is people that I just enjoy being around. I don't have to work to be like, dude, I can honestly say that there's nothing I did with this person that I didn't like having them next to me.
Right.
I don't care if it was cleaning out a barn, going to a music store, working hard together, or just doing nothing. And that's when I know I dig somebody. Yep. It's like, it doesn't matter, because some people I'm like, they're cool to do that with, but man, they're a shit show at the art museum.
Right. I hate to take them.
They can't just
shopping.
go right. There's nothing that we did together that made me cringy at all, other than argue. You know what I mean? But past that, there is no
genuinely enjoyed
we
them.
did
as a human. But like, you're right. You have to refocus.
Yeah.
What do you love about her or him?
Yeah.
They have positive attributes. That's why you picked them.
Right. And if it's just sexual, make it sexual. If it's just mental, just make it mental. Figure it out.
Yeah. They have strengths and weaknesses.
Or look at yourself for picking this fucking super flawed human.
Right. Well, and I guess I would add that, like, do not expect them to change in a way that they're incapable of doing.
Yeah.
Rebuilding trust is not changing the other person.
Oof. That's real.
It's not.
Say that loud. No, seriously. That's real shit.
Rebuilding trust is not expecting the other person to change.
People struggle with that
I
shit.
know, but it's true.
You can change some certain behaviors.
Behavior, sure. Personality traits, no.
Right.
If you are an open book and you are vulnerable to the masses because you want to hold the power, not them,
right.
I don't know that he or she can expect you to put your walls back. Like, how is that
You don't
healthy?
have any power, and if you do, you're fucking a dick.
No.
Stop being a dick.
That's them asking you to put up boundaries.
All right, so if you have any things you guys want to work through, send us some.
I would love to hear it.
Some new stuff. 234-200-5949 is the hotline. We're going to start calling people back and putting them on the show. We're figuring out how to do that for season number 2. I want to thank everybody. Yeah, we're going to talk to Gavin. Gavin, you've been heard, bud. We just set it up so we can actually talk to you. We got to figure it out, Mr. Mailman. But it's important to work on things. You have everything at your fingertips to be working on it together and on yourself before you just demand it out of another person. Right. So
there's so many resources.
There is.
So
you don't have a whole lot of excuses anymore. Okay,
No.
and don't say I don't have money for therapy, because if you have time to scroll TikTok, you have time to look through some of this shit and actually look through. Don't try to read the whole thing.
No.
Read one fucking paragraph and think about it for 3 days and really think about short-term effects,
Any
long-term
of these
effects.
things individually could
100%.
be pivotal.
So be nice to each other. Don't be assholes. Have a great day.
Right. Bye, guys.
Bye.